My father was completely terrified when he met my boyfriend. I was nervous about introducing Ethan to my parents. He wasn't just my boyfriend. He was my first real relationship in years. We met at the co-op hardware store where I worked part-time. He came in asking about work gloves and walked out with my number. We'd been seeing each other for about 2 months when he brought up the idea of meeting my folks. At first, I hesitated. It's not that I thought they'd hate him. My mom is friendly to just about anyone. And my dad? Well, I thought I understood him. Protective, yes. A little gruff, yes. But reasonable. Besides, Ethan wasn't a bad guy. He was older, sure, and his tattoos ran from his collar to his wrists, but he was polite, soft-spoken, kind, even. So, after Ethan kept nudging me, I gave in. My parents live in a quiet, wooded suburb just outside of Asheville. Old colonial house, porch swing out front, that kind of place. When we pulled up, my mom was already at the door, waving through the screen. "Oh, you must be Ethan," she called, her smile wide as she pulled the door open. He gave her a gentle smile and thanked her. She pulled him into a hug before I could say anything. Classic mom. He stepped inside, took off his boots by the mat, and complimented the cedar floors. My mom beamed. I gave Ethan a quick peck on the cheek and led him into the dining room, where my dad was sitting at the table, sipping beer and thumbing through something on his phone. "Hey, Dad," I said casually. "This is Ethan." My dad looked up, and then something shifted. His hand froze mid-scroll. His beer hovered just above the table. His mouth didn't move, but his eyes locked on Ethan like he'd seen something he wasn't ready for. Ethan extended a hand. "Nice to meet you, sir." My dad just stared at it for a moment. Then, slow and mechanical, he reached out and shook it. I could see it in the tension of his shoulder. He didn't want to. Not really. I felt something twist inside me. My dad could be tough, yeah. Ex-corrections officer. Retired after 25 years. But he wasn't usually rude. And this was beyond rude. My mom must have felt it too, because she rushed in with her usual warmth. Come on. Let's eat while it's hot." She waved Ethan to a seat across from my dad and nudged me to sit beside her. The table was already set. Chicken piccata, roasted vegetables, garlic bread. She'd gone all out. As we started eating, Mom asked Ethan where he was from. "New Mexico, originally," he said. "Near Santa Fe. My folks moved us to Nevada when I was a teenager." My mom smiled. "Oh, we used to live in Santa Fe? Back before Thomas got his last transfer." She reached over and patted my dad's hand. He barely moved. He stared at his plate, his fork toying with the broccoli like he didn't even see it. Ethan kept talking about growing up near the desert, about his job at a vintage motorcycle shop downtown, but my dad remained silent. Every once in a while, Mom would try to loop him in. "You used to ride dirt bikes too, remember?" she asked. He didn't respond. The whole time, I was watching Ethan for signs of frustration. But he handled it with grace, laughing softly and keeping the conversation light. I appreciated that. But inside, I was burning. My dad was being cruel, and Ethan didn't deserve it. By the time dinner was winding down, the silence from my dad had shifted from cold to strange. There was a look in his eyes, something like fear. Sweat had started to bead along his temple, and he kept glancing at Ethan, then back to his plate, like he was trying to make sense of something that wasn't computing. When my mom announced she had made dessert, her famous lemon meringue pie, I saw it as a chance to smooth things over. "I'll help you get it," I said, rising from the table. Ethan offered to help too, but I gave him a subtle look to stay. Maybe if they were alone for a minute, something would give. Maybe my dad would snap out of it. In the kitchen, I leaned in close to my mom as she checked the oven. "What's going on with Dad?" She sighed. "He got some rough news this morning." I paused. "What kind of news?" She glanced back at me. 2 of his old co-workers passed away. One in a car crash, the other in a fire. Both this past month. "Oh," I said, feeling a twinge of guilt. "I didn't know." She turned her attention back to the pie. I think it hit him harder than he expected. They were close once. I nodded slowly. That made some sense. But still, something about tonight felt off in a way that grief couldn't fully explain. Not this kind of silence. Not that look in his eyes. She asked me to get the small serving knife from the pantry drawer, the one she used to cut the crust clean. I grabbed the dessert plates and silverware and headed back down the hall. I figured maybe, just maybe, the 2 of them had broken the ice by now. But when I stepped into the dining room, I froze. Ethan hadn't moved. But my dad, he was crying. Not tearing up. Not blinking hard. Crying. His shoulders trembled. His breath came in heaves. And he was leaning forward slightly, like the weight of whatever he was feeling was crushing him. Ethan sat completely still, eyes locked on my dad. Expression unreadable. A storm waiting to break. And then, my dad spoke. "This isn't fair," my dad whispered, his voice low and broken. "I was only doing my job." Ethan didn't blink. He leaned forward just slightly, eyes never leaving my father's. "When you arrested me," he said, his voice calm. Too calm, like something rehearsed in silence for years. "When you framed me." My mouth went dry. "Wait, what are you talking about?" I looked between them, heart pounding, trying to understand. "I didn't know," my dad said, as if he hadn't heard me. "I didn't know what they were doing." Ethan let out a short, sharp breath that might have been a laugh, or maybe just something breaking under the surface. "Every one of them," he said. "Every single one told me the same thing. That it was you who gave the orders. You signed the reports. You falsified the charges." "That's not true," my dad replied quickly, panic creeping into his voice. "I didn't. I never wanted. I was 22. Ethan cut in, and suddenly I felt the room change. I'd just gotten my first real job. I was supporting my mom after my dad passed. I was keeping my head down, trying to build a life. Until someone decided I matched a vague description. Until you showed up. You shoved me into the system like I was nothing. Like I was a case to be closed." I stepped forward, trembling. "Ethan, what are you talking about?" He finally turned to me. His face looked different now, older, tighter. Like he'd dropped something he'd been holding in since we met. "Your dad put me in prison for 15 years. Said I was a gang member. A car thief. Drug dealer. Whatever fit the paperwork." "No," I said. "That can't be true." "He would've. My trial was a joke," he said, turning back to my dad. "The whole thing took 3 days. 3 days to wipe out my entire life." My dad's hands were trembling. "I didn't know it would stick," he said. "I thought it would get thrown out. They told me it was procedural. You'd be out in a few months." "I spent 15 years in a concrete box," Ethan said. 15 years without a single visitor. My mother thought I was guilty. She killed herself 6 months after the trial." I gasped. My dad's breath hitched, his mouth opening like he was going to say something, but nothing came out. "You didn't just ruin my life," Ethan said. "You erased it." Silence. The kind of silence that eats through drywall. That drips down your back like sweat. The pie my mom had baked in the other room suddenly felt 100 miles away. My dad looked at me, then at Ethan, then back at me again. "Please," he said, "leave her out of this." "She didn't do anything." Ethan didn't answer. His expression didn't change. "She didn't know," my dad begged. "She wasn't even born when it happened. Don't punish her." Ethan's eyes narrowed. And then, after a long pause, he spoke with a chilling stillness. "She's the only reason you're still breathing." And then, for the first time since I'd walked back into that room, I saw it, his hands. They were clenched tightly beneath the table. White-knuckled. Twitching. My dad turned to me, barely keeping his voice steady. "Honey, the serving spatula. Go get it for your mom." "What?" I said, too stunned to process. "It's in the second drawer of the pantry," he said again. "The long one. You know the one." There was something urgent in his tone. Not panicked, but tight. Precise. And then it hit me. The second drawer. That's where he kept it. The Glock. Stashed in a velvet-lined tray, loaded but safety on. He used to joke that retirement didn't mean forgetting everything he'd learned. I nodded, slowly. "I'll be right back." I turned toward the hallway, not daring to meet Ethan's eyes. I walked slowly at first. Then, as soon as I cleared the doorway, I ran. I burst into the kitchen, my mom glancing up in confusion. "He's crying in there," she said. "What on earth's going on?" But I was already at the pantry, wrenching the drawer open. There it was. I grabbed it, flicked the safety, checked the magazine. Fully loaded. "Call 911. I whispered. "What?" "Call 911. Now." I turned and ran back down the hall, heart beating so fast it made my vision blur. Every footstep felt like it echoed 1,000 times through the walls. I turned the corner, gun raised. But Ethan was gone. The chair was pushed back, but there was no sound. No trace. My dad sat frozen in place. Head tilted to one side. His chest wasn't moving. I stepped closer. His eyes were wide open. And sticking out of his neck, buried deep into the artery, was one of our dessert forks. Blood had pooled across the table. I dropped to my knees, screamed his name, tried to stop the bleeding, though I knew, instantly, it was far too late. And still, Ethan was gone. The house was silent except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and my mother's horrified gasps from the hallway. I sat on the kitchen floor, still holding the gun, still staring at the pool of blood beneath my father's chair. The fork, the body, the absence. Ethan had vanished like smoke. By the time the paramedics arrived, it was far too late. I could hear one of them calling the time of death, while another gently pried the pistol from my hand. I hadn't moved in nearly 20 minutes. My mom kept asking where Ethan had gone. I couldn't answer her, because I didn't know. And honestly, I didn't think he'd really left. The next few days blurred. Police interviews, statement forms, a detective asking me to walk through it one more time. Like repetition might make the story sound less insane. They found Ethan's full name and prison record. They found surveillance footage of him entering the house. But no exit footage. No car pulled away. No doors opened. Nothing. The back door remained locked. The windows unbroken. It was like he'd stepped into our lives and then slipped through a crack in the floor. The case was technically ruled as domestic homicide. That term alone made me want to throw up. They buried my dad in a small cemetery just outside town. Closed casket. I stood next to my mom while people gave her sad, confused looks, none of them brave enough to ask what really happened. I didn't speak at the funeral. I couldn't. My fingers kept twitching, trying to retrace every detail, what I could have done differently. And through it all, one thing kept gnawing at me. That smile. That final smile Ethan gave me. Not of love. Not of kindness. It was cold. Knowing. Planned. I went back to work a week later. Tried to be normal. Greeted customers. Stocked shelves. Smiled at managers. But inside, I was slipping. I started dreaming about him. Sometimes I was at the dinner table again, except it was just me and Ethan, eating in silence while my father's body sat upright, unmoving. Other nights, I was the one in the chair, and Ethan was the one in my father's seat, gently polishing a fork. I'd wake up drenched in sweat. Every creak in the hallway made me jump. I got a prescription for sleeping pills, but they barely worked. I tried therapy. It helped a little. But even there, I kept one piece of the story to myself. The way Ethan had looked straight into my eyes, right before everything broke. Like I was next. I finally broke down 2 months after the funeral. It was late, past midnight. I was sitting alone in the living room, scrolling through old photos of my dad on my phone. Graduation day, family barbecues, him teaching me how to check tire pressure. And then, like static in my brain, a question returned. Was he telling the truth? Had my dad really framed Ethan? Had the justice system swallowed up an innocent man? I needed answers. I logged into my father's old desktop. The password was still his badge number. I opened the folder labeled retirement. Dozens of PDF case files sat inside. I started scrolling, eyes glazed over from staring too long. Most were routine, petty theft, DUI arrests, traffic reports. Then I saw one. Case 871D. Subject, Ethan Reyes. Charges, auto theft, gang affiliation, narcotics possession. Result, conviction, 15 years. My heart dropped. I opened it. The photos, the arrest report, the witness statements. Everything looked too neat, like it had been written in one sitting, under one hand. Then I noticed a line at the bottom of the arrest warrant. Filed by Lieutenant Marcus C. Dean. My father. The statement was cold, detached, like Ethan was just a name on a checklist. I searched the folder again. That's when I found a subfolder, titled simply, Doubt. Inside were scanned pages, letters, notes, even court transcripts. And something else. A video file, titled Interview, 2008. I opened it. The screen lit up with grainy footage of a man in an orange jumpsuit. A younger Ethan. He sat across from someone off camera. The timestamp in the corner read, August 14th, 2008. Ethan leaned forward and said, I didn't do it. The voice off camera, my father, replied, then give me someone who did. Ethan didn't speak for a moment. Then he muttered, you just want a name. My dad. I want a conviction. I want to close the case. Ethan, so say I'm it. You got what you want. The screen flickered, but the audio kept going. My dad, you're admitting guilt? Ethan, no. I'm admitting I'm the easiest person in the room to blame. The video cut off there. No explanation. No file corruption. Just a hard stop. I sat back, breathing hard. It was real. He hadn't just been angry. He hadn't lied. Ethan Reyes had spent 15 years in prison for a crime he may never have committed. And now? Now my dad was dead. I closed the file and leaned back in the chair. The room felt smaller, hotter, like something was shifting behind the drywall, breathing through the vents. I stood up, looked around. Everything was normal. But when I passed the hallway mirror on the way to bed, I stopped. For a split second, I thought I saw Ethan's reflection standing just behind mine. After the mirror, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw Ethan's face behind mine. Not twisted, not monstrous, just watching, calm, patient, like he knew how this story ended and was waiting for me to catch up. I stopped using the hallway mirror. Then I stopped using mirrors altogether. Bathroom, rear view, even the front camera on my phone, I taped over it. Paranoia? Maybe. But what else do you call it when a man vanishes after killing your father with a dessert fork, and you keep seeing him? A week passed. Then two. The nightmares changed. Now it wasn't just Ethan. It was my father, too. But not the man I knew. The man in the dreams looked smaller, older, haunted. He'd stand in corners and whisper things I couldn't hear. He'd reach for me, but never make it across the room. One night, I followed him. In the dream, he walked backward, slowly, down our hallway, toward the dining room. When I reached the table, he wasn't there anymore. Just a chair. My chair. And when I sat in it, I felt metal, cold and sharp, press into the back of my neck. I woke up screaming. I didn't go to work the next day. I started calling Ethan's name out loud. Not like a madwoman. Like a challenge. Where are you, huh? I'd say while brushing my teeth. You gonna come back and finish it? Sometimes, I'd hear creaks upstairs. Sometimes knocks. Other times, nothing. Then one night, I heard a voice. Clear. Close. Right behind me. Whispered. Just one word. Truth. I turned the entire house upside down. Checked every door. Every window. Even the attic. Nothing. But in my father's old office, I found something. Behind a row of framed commendations, there was a safe. Not a small one either. This was bolted to the floor. Old school, steel dial. The kind you needed both hands and patience for. It took me 2 hours, using his badge number and birth date. Click. Inside, 3 things. A folded photo, a USB drive, and a gun. The photo was of my dad, maybe 20 years ago, standing beside a much younger Ethan in cuffs. But they were smiling. Like they were friends. Or like the photo was taken before something terrible happened. On the back, in my father's handwriting. I failed him. I sat on the carpet and stared at those 3 words until the sun rose. The USB drive was even worse. Inside was a single folder, counterfiles. 37 names. 37 cases. And all of them had something in common. No trial. No appeal. All closed by the same man. Detective Marcus Dean, my father. I opened one. Then another. Then another. All of them had gaps. Witness statements that didn't match timestamps. Surveillance clips conveniently cut short. Confessions that felt guided. It was a pattern. One I couldn't ignore. He framed people. Over and over. Not just Ethan. Not just once. And every single name in that folder? Dead. All of them. I printed the list. Laid it out on the floor. 37 names. 37 ghosts. Then I did something stupid. I started crossing them off and asking out loud. Who's next? And that's when it started again. The knocks. The flickering lights. The voice. Sometimes a whisper. Sometimes a scream. Sometimes my own name, called in my father's voice. I stopped leaving the house. I stopped eating properly. I drank. I read every article I could find about the deaths on that list. Car accidents. Fires. Sudden illness. Almost none of them were investigated beyond the surface. It was like the world had already forgotten them. But Ethan hadn't. Neither had I. The thing that finally broke me was the visit. Not from him. From someone else. Late at night, past 2 a.m., I got a knock at the door. I peeked through the window. A woman. Mid-30s. Tired eyes. I opened it just enough to hear her voice. You're Dean's daughter, right? I nodded. She held up a photo. It was her, younger, maybe 12, next to a man in a prison jumpsuit. My father, she said. He was number 11. I didn't need to ask what she meant. Her eyes watered. You don't have to say anything. I just wanted to meet you. To see if you knew. I do, I whispered. She nodded. I didn't think you'd say that. Most people, most cop families, they defend them. Call us liars. She hesitated, then pulled something from her bag. It was a copy of the case file, the one I'd already read. But this one had a sticky note. From my dad. It read, "Tell her I'm sorry. I couldn't undo it. But she deserves peace." She left it on the step and walked away. That night, I sat in the hallway, right outside my dad's office. The safe door still open. I stared into the shadows and whispered, "I know what you were doing now." The air felt heavier. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't hear anything back. No knocks. No creaks. No whispers. Just silence. I wanted to believe that meant it was over. That the house was finally clean. That Ethan was gone. That justice, whatever twisted form of it, had been satisfied. But then I looked at the last page of that list. Name 37. Blank. Untouched. Unassigned. Waiting. For a while, I believed the quiet meant closure. I closed my dad's safe. Locked the door to his office. I even packed away the list of names, tucked it into an old shoebox I pushed to the back of my closet. Out of sight. Out of guilt. Out of mind. But silence, I learned, doesn't mean peace. It means a pause. And pauses end. It began again on a Tuesday. I was brushing my teeth, half asleep, when my phone buzzed on the sink. Unknown number. No message. Just a video. I hesitated before opening it. It was shot on a phone, shaky, low-res, late at night. A parking garage. A man limping toward the camera. His face was hard to make out. Dirty hoodie. Limp on his right side. Then he turned. And the frame stopped on his face. Ethan. His eyes weren't wild this time. They were calm. Sharp. Intentional. He leaned in, filling the frame, and said just one thing. "You still owe one more." Then the screen went black. I stood there for a full minute, toothbrush in hand, foam running down my wrist, heart rattling in my chest like a broken metronome. I tried deleting the video. It wouldn't delete. I tried calling the number. Disconnected. I tried convincing myself it was fake. A hallucination. Trauma acting out its final curtain call. But that night, at 3:17 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Same number. This time a photo. My mom. At the grocery store. Smiling. Unaware. A timestamp. That very day, I packed a bag within minutes. Called my mom. Told her to leave town. Stay with my cousin. Just for a while. No explanations. Just go? She pushed back, of course. Mothers always do. But I could hear something in my voice scared her more than the confusion. She agreed. She left that night. Then I opened the shoebox. Pulled out the list. 37 names. 36 crossed out. 1 left blank. I stared at it for hours. Nothing came to me. No flashes of inspiration. No gut instincts. Just a wait. I think that was the point. It wasn't about punishment anymore. It was about choice. I sat in the dining room that night. Same chair. Same table. Same spot where my father had. I couldn't finish that thought. I brought my dad's Glock with me. Just in case. But I didn't expect to use it. I wasn't planning to defend myself. I was waiting. And sure enough, he came. At exactly 3:17 a.m. The front door creaked open. I didn't hear steps. Just the air change. Like the house exhaled. Ethan appeared in the doorway. Same hoodie. Same limp. Same eyes that had once stared down my father. He looked older. Or maybe I'd just aged enough to meet him in the middle. He sat across from me. No words. No greeting. He set something on the table. A folded piece of paper. Number 37, he said. I didn't reach for it. I just whispered, "Is it me?" He smiled, gently. Sadly. "No. You were never on the list. You were just holding it." "Then who?" I asked. He pushed the paper toward me. I hesitated. Then opened it. A name. A photo. A face I hadn't seen in 10 years. Angela Torrance. The assistant district attorney who built the case against Ethan. I remembered her. Blonde. Sharp suits. Always on the news when I was younger. I'd assumed she retired. I was wrong. She was still active. Still prosecuting. Still lying. I read the attached article. Another conviction. A young man this time. Confession-based. No witnesses. No evidence. Just another number on a new list. My stomach turned. Ethan looked at me again. Not with anger, but with something colder. Expectation. "I don't want this," I whispered. "You think I did?" he said softly. I felt tears forming. "There has to be another way." "There is," he said, and for the first time, his voice cracked. "Tell the truth. Publish the files. Show the world what they did. Let their reputations die. And if I don't..." He stood up. His shadow stretched across the table like a noose. "Then someone else gets added. And this curse goes on. With or without you. He left without another word. No threats. No promises. Just a weight in the air. Like the last breath before drowning. The next day, I made my choice. I emailed every file, every document, every photo, every confession. I sent them to journalists, to whistleblower sites, to law professors and forums and podcasts. Then I shut my laptop and waited. The fallout came fast. News segments, investigations, resignations. Angela Torrance was arrested. Not because of me. Because of the truth. Ethan never returned. Neither did the knocks. Neither did the voice. Or the nightmares. I still keep the shoebox. Not because I'm afraid. But because I remember. The final name on the list was never mine. But it could have been. Justice doesn't come wrapped in bows. It doesn't always look like a courtroom or a headline. Sometimes, justice is a list. A gun. A moment of fear, followed by the courage to end it. Not with violence, but with truth.